Wang Yibo was in his element, a solitary storm on the stage. His movements were a blur of cool, controlled energy, his face a perfect mask of focused intensity. He owned the stage, a king in his dark kingdom of sound and light. But in the midst of the chaos, a quiet anxiety stirred within him. The noise, the lights, the endless performance, it was all a beautiful lie, a magnificent facade for a man who felt profoundly alone. Miles away, in a VIP suite on the other side of the stadium, a figure was a study in stillness. Zhan, bundled in a simple dark hoodie and a surgical mask, was a phantom in the crowd. He wasn't there to be seen. He was there to see. To witness. He watched Wang Yibo, his eyes tracing every powerful move, every subtle expression. He felt the distance between them as a physical ache, a quiet torment in the midst of a roaring celebration. He was a part of this world, yet completely apart from it. Then, a quiet, unscripted moment arrived. The music faded, replaced by a single, pulsing synth beat. It was an interlude, a moment of transition before the final act. Yibo, his body still in motion, turned his head, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. He wasn't looking for anyone. He was just looking. He was looking at the endless sea of faces, a million people he couldn't connect with. And then, his eyes, with the unerring precision of a homing beacon, found a single, solitary figure in the sea of anonymity. He saw a man in a black hoodie, a black mask. He saw a man whose eyes were on him, a look of profound, aching love in them. It wasn't a look of adoration, it was a look of understanding. The mind-blowing scene began. The world ceased to exist. The thumping bass, the flashing lights, the roar of the crowd, it all faded into a distant, muffled hum. The stage, the VIP suite, the stadium, it all collapsed into a single point of light, a universe of two. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, a silent, breathtaking torrent of communication, of memory, of love, passed between them. It wasn't a quick glance. It was a lock that stretched for far too long, far longer than a second, far longer than what was professionally acceptable. In that eternal moment, Yibo saw everything. The late-night painting sessions in Zhan's studio, the shared meals in their quiet apartment, the whispered confessions of fear and hope. He saw the cold, brutal realities of their public lives, the sacrifices they had made, the silent promises they had kept. He saw the lonely nights, the crushing weight of fame, the beautiful, unwavering truth of their love. He saw it all in a single gaze, a lifetime of unspoken words contained in a single second. And in the silence, a single unspoken message passed from Yibo's heart to Zhan's. I see you. You are not alone. The moment broke. The world came rushing back in, a violent assault of light and sound. Yibo's body, a study in quiet power just a moment ago, was now a trembling mess of raw emotion. The mask of cool detachment was gone, replaced by an expression of pure, unadulterated vulnerability. His eyes glistened, a profound, almost terrifying sincerity in them. He didn't continue the show. He just stood there, his chest heaving, his gaze still locked on the spot where Zhan had been. The crowd, sensing the profound shift, fell into a hush, a collective wave of concerned, hushed whispers. Meanwhile, the mind-blowing twist was unfolding behind the scenes. An official concert cameraman, a young intern named Lei, had been given a simple directive: get a sweeping shot of the crowd during the break. He had a brand-new long-lens camera, a powerful, state-of-the-art piece of equipment that could pick out a single face in a crowd of thousands. On a whim, he had decided to focus his lens on a figure in the VIP section, a person in a black hoodie who seemed to be staring at the stage with an unblinking intensity. He had, with a single unthinking act, captured the entire lock. The gaze, the flood of emotion, the trembling stillness. He had it all, a single powerful frame that would, to a professional eye, have been immediately discarded as a blurry, unfocused shot. Weeks passed. The concert was a legend. The public was abuzz with theories about Yibo's moment of stillness on stage. Was he tired? Was it a health issue? The speculation was a roaring wave of noise, a million whispers that couldn't get to the heart of the truth. But then, a quiet miracle happened. The video footage from the concert was leaked to a fan account, a simple compilation of candid moments. And in that footage, buried deep within a 30-second clip, was the single blurry frame. A frame that showed two figures, a famous star and a nameless person in a hoodie, their eyes locked in a silent, profound confession. The public didn't just see a moment. They saw a love story so real it had broken through the barrier of public life and revealed itself to the world. The final mind-blowing scene didn't involve cameras or crowds. It happened in the quiet of their apartment, a world away from the noise. They were sitting on a sofa, the viral video playing on a laptop screen, the two of them watching the moment over and over, their hearts full of a profound, odd sense of gratitude. "I knew it was you," Yibo finally said, his voice low and honest. "Even with the mask. I knew." Zhan reached for his hand, his fingers lacing with his. "I felt you," he said simply. "I felt you talking to me, without saying a word." The world had thought it was just a moment. The truth was that it was a declaration. A silent, beautiful, and utterly profound testament to the fact that their love had created its own language, a secret, beautiful truth. The video of the concert than any spoken word, where their eyes had locked for an eternity, had gone viral. It wasn't just a clip, it was a legend. It was a testament to a connection so profound it had broken through the barrier of 100,000 screaming fans and 1,000,000 flashing lights. The public had watched the silent, powerful exchange, and they were no longer looking for secrets. They were looking for the next piece of their love story. The narrative had shifted completely. They were no longer a secret to be uncovered, they were a love story to be witnessed. A few months later, at a major award ceremony, the air was filled with a new, profound sense of reverence. The questions from reporters were no longer intrusive. They were laced with a genuine curiosity about a love so honest it had transcended the need for words. The mind-blowing scene began when a host on the red carpet, microphone in hand, asked a question that was simple, but laced with a deep and intimate understanding. "Mr. Xiao," the host began, her voice warm, "the public saw the most beautiful thing that night on the red carpet. They saw your protective gesture toward Mr. Wang. It was a very powerful image. What was going through your mind in that moment?" The entire crowd went silent. In the past, this question would have been a moment of intense awkwardness, a polite but firm deflection. They were actors, not a public display. But now, in the face of a love that had become a source of strength, something different happened. Wang Yibo, who had been listening intently, looked at the host. He didn't smile his usual public smile. He gave her a quiet, knowing look, and then, his voice a low, confident rumble, he spoke. "I wasn't thinking," he said simply. "It wasn't a choice. It was a reaction." He then looked at Zhan, a silent conversation passing between them that only they could understand. He then, in a slow, deliberate motion, in full view of the cameras, reached out and, with an effortless, graceful movement that was a mirror of the viral photo, gently placed his hand on Zhan's back. This time, it wasn't accidental. It was a conscious, public gesture that confirmed the truth of the photo. It was a silent, beautiful, and deeply personal act. The cameras, which had been trained on his face, quickly pivoted to capture the moment. It wasn't a performance, it was a public display of a private, intimate truth. It was a silent, beautiful confirmation that their love was not a script to be followed, but a reality to be lived. The host, a seasoned professional who had seen everything, was speechless. The crowd didn't erupt, they simply watched in a collective, stunned silence. The mind-blowing truth was that they had not just confirmed their love. They had just performed a piece of their real lives in front of the entire world. The line between their art and their reality had completely blurred, and in that moment, they didn't care. The final scene unfolded hours later, in the quiet sanctuary of their car. The world outside was celebrating their bravery, calling them courageous. Zhan was sitting next to Wang Yibo, who, despite the long night, looked more at peace than he ever had. "The public thinks you're brave for what you just did," Zhan murmured, his voice soft with emotion. "You just told the world that our love is real." Wang Yibo looked at him, and his rare, genuine smile touched his lips. "I didn't do it to be brave, Zhan, he said, his voice low and confident. "I did it because I'm not afraid anymore. The movie scene was just a mirror. The real story is us. And the most powerful love stories are the ones that don't need a script." The final, breathtaking truth of their love story wasn't a grand, dramatic confession or a hidden symbol. It was the simple, beautiful fact that their love had become a source of peace, a quiet, unwavering force that had transformed their fear into courage. They had, in the end, not just revealed a secret. They had set themselves free. The moment Wang Yibo brushed the imaginary lint from Zhan's suit at the premiere, the world held its breath. It wasn't just a gesture, it was an echo, a conscious mirroring of the movie scene that had just captivated millions. The cameras didn't just capture a moment, they captured the truth, a public confirmation of a private love. The internet, instead of erupting in a frenzied explosion of headlines, fell into a kind of stunned, reverent silence. It was as if they had been handed the final beautiful piece of a puzzle they had been trying to solve for years. The narrative had shifted completely. They were no longer a secret to be uncovered, they were a love story to be witnessed. The next mind-blowing scene wasn't a public event but a quiet, intimate moment that unfolded in the sanctuary of their home. A few weeks after the premiere, they were sitting together, watching old fan compilations, the kind of videos that meticulously charted their history through fleeting glances and shared laughter. They watched the footage from the very beginning of their journey, a time when they were still navigating the complex waters of friendship and something deeper. Wang Yibo, who had always been a man of immense control, watched himself on screen, his face a careful mask of cool detachment. He saw the way he would refuse to make eye contact, the rigid set of his shoulders. And then, they saw a moment that neither of them had ever fully processed before. It was a clip from a show, a quick, almost imperceptible moment. Zhan had just finished speaking, and his face was alight with genuine, unfiltered emotion. The camera cut to Wang Yibo, whose back was to the camera. But in the footage, he saw himself, without thinking, turn his head ever so slightly. A tiny, almost invisible gesture. His gaze, in that moment, was not on a host or a camera, but on Zhan's face. He wasn't acting. He wasn't posing. He was just watching, a quiet, unblinking witness to a beauty he was too afraid to acknowledge. The most mind-blowing truth was not that the love had developed over time, but that it had been there all along, hidden in plain sight, woven into the fabric of their lives. Wang Yibo paused the video. He looked at Zhan, his eyes wide with a new, profound understanding. "I was so afraid back then," he confessed, his voice a low, honest rumble. "I thought if I didn't acknowledge it, the world couldn't see it. I thought if I didn't look at you, no one could see how much I loved you. I was trying to hide it from the world, but I was also trying to hide it from myself." Zhan reached for his hand, his fingers lacing with his. "You were never hiding it from me," he said, his voice soft. "Your eyes were always louder than your words. I knew. I always knew." The public saw a movie scene that mirrored their lives. The truth was that their lives had been a continuous, beautiful movie scene from the very beginning. The final mind-blowing scene didn't involve cameras or flashbulbs. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon, in a simple cafe, a world away from the chaos of their celebrity lives. They were sitting at a small table, a few feet from the window, their faces relaxed, their guards completely down. A young woman, a fan with a look of immense courage in her eyes, walked over to their table. She wasn't holding a phone for a photo or a pen for an autograph. She simply looked at them, and with a voice full of quiet reverence, she said, "Thank you." Wang Yibo, who had been a fortress of guarded silence for years, simply smiled, a genuine, unbidden curve of his lips that was no longer rare. "For what?" he asked, his voice gentle. "For being yourselves," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "For showing us that the most powerful love stories are not in the movies, but in real life. You gave me the courage to not be afraid to be who I am." And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving them in a profound, understanding silence. The ultimate truth, the final, breathtaking revelation, was not that their love was just a secret that had been revealed. It was that it had become something more. It had become a gift to the world. A source of courage and hope, a silent, powerful testament to the idea that love, in its purest form, has no need for a script, for it is a force that is far more powerful and beautiful than any words could ever describe.